Hello and good evening. So I just wanted to come at you with a little bit more information and see what you think about this. So bear with me for a minute. What I want to start with is something I found out. So the school board and the school system has asked the community to give up one Big Mac, one cup of coffee, eating out one time. So anywhere they ask the community to please give up between $7 and $15 a month in order to help pay for these new facilities or this nickel tax. But get this. So this is their expense reimbursement procedures, policies, okay? Right here. I didn't make it up. I printed it off their website. And this was last updated. This one was June of 2023 was when this one was adopted. And it gave them a maximum allowable food expenditure per day of $45. And get this, a 15% total max tip that they could give on a receipt. Okay, get that. So then they adopted a new one in July of 2025. This year, guys, 1 month before they tried to do a nickel tax and raise your taxes. 1 month. Here it is, 2025. Get this. They want you to go one less time eating out a month, but they increased their per diem maximum allowable food expenditure from $45 to $60. A $15 increase. What do you think about that? Per person now. If they take 15 people out to dinner, they all get an extra $15. So they ask you to do without, and they increase theirs. Tell me what you think about that. You know, no fingers pointed. Tell me what you think about that. All right. So I also wanted to fill you in on a couple other things. So we picked out Clark County, since it's a county right beside us, to compare their procedures and their policies. So here you go. They actually break down their meals from breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You also have to be traveling during a certain amount of time. So for breakfast, it's 6:30 to 9 a.m. For lunch, it's 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. For dinner, it's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And each one of those has a certain amount of money that it's allowed. If you travel inside Kentucky, breakfast is $12, lunch is $15, and dinner is $23. If you travel outside of Kentucky, breakfast is $14, the lunch is $18, and dinner is $28. You have to be traveling during those hours at those times, and you only get that specific amount of money for that meal. Powell County words it so that it's a per day maximum allowance. That's why you see on their receipts that everybody got tore up about, that we were sharing with everybody, and you're wanting to know why we're looking into this, because we're trying to get the truth and break it down. They wanted advice. They said the community was not giving them any insight or wasn't trying to help contribute to solving problems. We were only out there digging up problems. Well, here you go. We were looking into all this stuff to see how you could be more fiscally responsible. They want to give you, if you go out and you travel for 6 hours that day from 11 to 5, overnight only. But anyways, I mean, you should have gotten a lunch meal paid for $15, but you decide to go to Malone's and eat for $60. They're going to go ahead and reimburse you for $60 of that meal. When if you work for the Clark County School Board and you travel, you get paid $15 for lunch. If you go to Malone's and you spend $80, you turn in your receipt, it's $15. But get this. We shared some of those receipts with you, and in their words, Powell County's words, it says, any meal must be substantiated by an itemized receipt. So that means every receipt that you see us share with you, if it doesn't have the time, the place, the date, and what was bought on that receipt, then it shouldn't be paid for according to their procedures. It should be itemized, and it should be detailed on what they purchased in order to get reimbursed for it. And you'll see some of those receipts we shared with you only had a price, might have had a date. That was it. Didn't say what was purchased. Everybody said, well, it's the name of the restaurant up there. You know they bought food. I don't know that. You don't know that. So that's why there's procedures and rules, to follow them and not deviate from them. And it helps us understand it. But here's another kicker. We shared another receipt with you that everybody got tore up about. It had an alcohol line up there, and they had a circle around the food. I understand that the school may have not reimbursed for that alcohol because it wasn't circled. But get this, we searched another county not close by. This is Hardin County, and look, they also break it down by breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how much they'll pay. High rate, regular rate. So basically, high rate is when you go outside of the state. But anyways, they break it down same times.
Estill does the same.
Yeah, Estill County does the same thing. But here's what I'm getting down to right here. This might be backwards in you, but I'm going to read it to you. They break down their procedures really nice. This is something Powell County should look into. And this is on their website that anybody can look up, and it's not very hard to find. Line item number 2. If alcohol is on a receipt, we will not reimburse any of that purchase. Please make the changes before submitting to finance for payment. Meaning, they're not saying you can't, as an adult, go out on a trip without kids being with you and have a drink at a restaurant. But they are saying if you have that drink with your meal and you don't separate it from your receipt, don't bring that receipt into finance and ask to get reimbursed for it, because it's not going to happen. They're saying your alcohol receipt, you should ask your waiter to separate your alcohol from your meal and give you 2 different receipts, pay for it 2 different ways, have them separated, get it off of the receipt. Powell County, again, it's 4 lines on their procedures for food reimbursement, and all it says is alcoholic beverages are excluded. Well, duh. But, I mean, why? Why leave it that vague? Why wouldn't they be as stringent as Hardin County? You know, and who knows, if I could really dig into Clark counties, they didn't have it broke down. I couldn't find the procedure just yet, but who's to say their procedure or their Board of Education, their internal district procedure doesn't say the same thing? Ask yourself that. You know, all of these procedures and rules are meant to safeguard and protect the taxpayer, protect the system, but yeah, and protect the kids. But we're talking about money here and expenses and financial fiscal responsibility. So here I've laid out 3 things that we found that you need to know. So again, why would they ask you to reduce your consumption per month? Would they increase their consumption and find it okay? Why would they not have their meal reimbursements as detailed as Hardin County and Clark County? Or Estill County. So, you know, I hope this adds a little bit of thinking to what you're voting no for tomorrow. And if you voted yes, I hope you can think about these things I just explained also. You know, they even went as much as your tax dollar. Let me share this with you. Their tip for their approved tip in 2023.
Last year.
Before they updated, was that they would give you
15%.
They would allow you 15% to tip.
Now
So when they upped the allowable maximum amount of food to 60, they also allowed you to do a maximum of $12 tip.
which is
Do you all know how to do math? I'll give you a second.
most of them can't do percent.
So $12 of $60 is 20%. So they're allowing the staff and people getting reimbursed they're allowing them to tip the server 20% of the meal for that day, when it used to be 15%. Well, it's our tax dollars. You should be very stingy with our tax dollars when you spend them, I believe, you know, because you're taking somebody else's money, you're being trusted with it, and you're going to spend it. That waiter or waitress understands that their income, that's a whole different topic, but the school board here was okay with raising how much they could allow to be spent when they're asking you as the taxpayer to give more, and they're going to go out and spend more money. Okay, so again, all this substantiated, proof, hard copies, paper, internet.
So
People want facts. People want proof.
so they can spend more.
Yeah, and again, You know, all this takes time and effort to dig and find and share. When you start shining a light in a dark space, people get offended. I can't help that. None of this is meant to point out one particular person, but if one particular person feels highly offended because of the proof and the evidence that we share, then it may be a result of a guilty conscience. You know, none of this is, I think the system is broken, not the people. Do you understand that? So I hope everybody else can get on board with improving the system and making it better for everybody. And heaven forbid, there's some bad characters that don't care that the system is broken and they encourage it to stay broken. So again, showed you some proof, give you something to think about, and I hope you take this and you talk productively about it with people and share it with the yeses and the nos. And tomorrow is the last day to vote, so I beg you to tell everybody up every holler and every nook and cranny of this county. There are people still today that when phone calls were made by some good volunteers in this community to reach out to people, there are still people that do not know this vote is taking place tomorrow. So you tell me how well the school board does in communicating stuff. And one final thought, just a little nibble, a little cookie to throw in. When the school system said they had to send their notice to the nearest large newspaper that circulated weekly, if you go in and read in some documents, it's, I forget what line item, and I'm sure this is just a little cookie, you go find it. But it says the school board could have, if they wanted to, tell everybody. They could have sent a mailer out to every mailbox in Powell County with a notice of all of this nickel tax stuff. They didn't have to send it to Montgomery County. They didn't have to send it to Estill County. They could have mailed out a mailer to every mailbox in Powell County. Don't believe me? Look it up. Thank you. Have a nice night.